What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here with your NFL weekly review, reaction, and recap. This time for week number 13 of the 2022 NFL season. One thing that I love about a great week of football, a week with a bunch of marquee matchups, is as fans, we get to sit back, we get to relax, we get to take it in, digest it, understand it, process it, and we get to figure out some things. We get to learn some things. Instead of the best teams just demolishing terrible squads, we get the opportunity to learn about the league, learn about the NFL this week. And we get to learn who are contenders, who are frauds, who are the pretenders out there. That's what I love about watching a great week of football with great matchups from the early slot to the primetime matchup. That's what I absolutely love. So this review is not so much going to be game by game breakdowns. It's going to be my biggest takeaways from this week, from an overall outlook at the NFL right now, where we stand in week 13 from an AFC perspective, from an NFC perspective, from an NFL cohesive view, and discussing what I saw this week within everything there. So before we get started, guys, don't forget to spike that like button and subscribe to the channel for NFL weekly recaps just like this, where I go raw, unfiltered, and give you my thoughts on the NFL for the week. Also, let me know in the comment section below, as we are not live. Let me know your comment, your takeaway, your biggest thought from week 13, or any other thoughts you have or questions. I'll definitely look at them all, and I'll definitely answer if you have a question for me. So let's get going with the first stream that I covered, the first game that I covered for the day, which was the Philadelphia Eagles and the Tennessee Titans. That was a game that I thought Tennessee was going to be able to keep close. I felt like Tennessee matched up fairly well with the Philadelphia Eagles, being able to run the ball and stop the run as they typically do, the Mike Vrabel style of football, I felt would give the Philadelphia Eagles a tough time even at home. We learned things about both teams. First and foremost, I thought this was the Philadelphia Eagles' most impressive game in a long time. This was maybe their best game of the season from an entire team perspective. I felt like they ran the ball when they needed to. I felt like Jalen Hurts was composed, accurate, consistent, made plays with both his arm and his legs. And it was clear that the Tennessee Titans were doing their best to contain him in the pocket, slow down their running game, and force Jalen Hurts to make precise, accurate passes down the field. And the Eagles were able to dictate through their passing game in a way I haven't seen them do all year. They were able to drop back pass, able to use that passing game on early downs especially, get the ball out quick, pick their matchups, and Jalen Hurts was mostly superb in the game, getting the ball to Devontae Smith, who had a big game, getting the ball to A.J. Brown, who had a massive revenge game, so to speak, and those two guys dominated. Even without Dallas Goedert, this passing offense looked really, really precise, really just in rhythm all day long, and that from there dictated and opened up the rest of the game for the Eagles. They were able to pace the game the way they wanted. They were able to put the Titans on their toes and force them to throw the ball more than they would have liked, to come from behind and win the game. And they also opened up everything else through their passing game. Instead of opening things up through their running game in this matchup, the Eagles smartly, wisely understood that the Titans are a very good run defense, and they're going to come out with a game plan to stop our running game. How do we counter that? And I felt like the Eagles really had a good chess match against Vrabel in this game and the Titans. Now, it's very rare that we see the Titans not necessarily get out-coached but not be able to have an answer to what their opponent is giving them. And that is the true sign of a potentially great team, a potentially dominant team. And we've seen now that after a couple of weeks of the Eagles not playing their best football, I would say 3 or 4 weeks in a row, where I really felt like the Eagles were just trending downward and not playing well, they have bounced back in a massive way with an impressive showing versus the Tennessee Titans, who will be a playoff team and will be the AFC South champs. So really, I mean, a lot of credit to the Eagles. I thought their defense played a heck of a lot better. Not exactly one of the most dynamic offenses in the league. I understand that. But they stopped the run very effectively. Derrick Henry had nowhere to go. He never really got started in the game. And their pass rush took over in the third and fourth quarter. I had to turn the game off. I had to turn the stream off. I had to go to a different game by the end of the third quarter because they just couldn't protect Tannehill at a certain point, and the Eagles were just all over him. The Eagles' defense, I felt, stopped the run. Again, a lot better. Jordan Davis back in, and I felt like just their whole front was really after it and really hungry and played awesome in the game. So I really love what I saw from the Eagles in a way that I haven't loved what they have been doing in recent weeks. So really like that from the Eagles. For the Tennessee Titans, I think we just see their limitations. As well coached as they are, as fundamentally sound in terms of getting their matchups, exposing your weaknesses, playing to their strengths, playing with identity, the Tennessee Titans just don't have certain areas of their team that they used to have at an elite level. Like, this team right now is really lacking, really hurting in the secondary. They really failed to match up on the perimeter, on the outside against the Eagles. A.J. Brown did his thing, had his way. Devontae Smith did his thing, did whatever he wanted to do. And it just felt like these corners were outmatched, outgunned. And the Tennessee Titans were pretty good up front on defense as expected, but they just couldn't make the plays down the field. They couldn't play man-to-man the way they wanted to. They couldn't shut down those receivers or play effective pass coverage the way they wanted to while trying to contain Jalen Hurts and making him beat them with his arm. But the back end just wasn't with that front end of the game plan. And then you look at the offense, not able to run the ball. They haven't been able to run the ball in weeks. That's been concerning for them. Derrick Henry has been unable to get it going. If they can't run the ball offensively, they're not a very good offense. It's that simple. Because their offensive line is not good in drop back pass. It's not a Ryan Tannehill issue. It's an offensive line issue. They take too many holdings. They get pushed around. The pocket gets suffocated. And then when you saw Treylon Burks get out of the game with an injury, their receiving core, their wide receivers lacked explosiveness, couldn't get open, couldn't separate. It was big issues for the Tennessee Titans. So you see their limitations as a football team. The Titans more so this year than in seasons past, although they've kind of always been this way with Ryan Tannehill, has been they've got to be kind of a run-first team, a get-ahead team. That's how they play their best football. They like to play into the fourth quarter and make plays in the fourth quarter. They like to be able to play run or pass. This team this year is just lacking the offensive explosion that they used to have with A.J. Brown there and all the pieces. I just don't think they have it. You know, when you look at the AFC outlook, I think Tennessee could potentially win one playoff game. But after that, I just don't see them going anywhere this year. I think it's a credit to the Titans for even getting to this point to consider them as the true AFC South best team, because it's a credit to the staff, it's a credit to Vrabel, it's a credit to the players of being this good in a year where it looked like clear regression from the Tennessee Titans. But it is showing now against these better top tier teams, the Eagles, the Bengals, these teams that they've played as of late. They just aren't quite on that level. They're a step below. So the Titans did show that they're just not on that level possibly any longer. Moving on to the second stream of the day, that was the San Francisco 49ers and the Miami Dolphins. This game was definitely eventful and probably had the biggest storyline takeaways of the day. The San Francisco 49ers lost Jimmy Garoppolo very early in this game. I want to say it was the first quarter, and Miami scored a touchdown before he even went out of the game. So the Dolphins were up 7-0 in this game before Jimmy Garoppolo got injured, which means that the Brock Purdy-led 49ers actually dismantled and defeated the Miami Dolphins. This was not a game where Purdy came in the end. Purdy made a couple throws. Purdy won the game. I think a lot of people are crossing off the 49ers of their contender list, and I think that is wrong. Because as we saw in this game, a team that many people considered an explosive offense, a good AFC team, potentially a contender, the Miami Dolphins. Well, the Niners dismantled them. The Niners dominated them. The Niners defense led them to victory in this game, and Purdy made enough plays, the run game made enough plays to be able to win this one comfortably in San Francisco. So I wouldn't be so fast to cross off the 49ers as an NFC contender. As much as I think this may hurt them, Jimmy Garoppolo's experience, Jimmy Garoppolo operates this offense well. I've heard people call him the key to the offense. What we've learned and what I've been telling you for years, seasons, is that Kyle Shanahan is that dude. Kyle Shanahan is the best coach in football. And this stretch run here, he's going to have Mr. Irrelevant as his quarterback. Name me another coach who could go on a run or even be considered to go on a run with Mr. Irrelevant as their quarterback. And actually not just through defense, but actually still providing offensive impact and offensive abilities, like prowess, through a quarterback that was Mr. Irrelevant. The last pick in the NFL draft, not last year, not the year before, this year, a rookie quarterback that was the last pick in the draft is still doing this on this team, in this offense. So I'm not saying Brock Purdy's going to go on to win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying Kyle Shanahan's going to lead this team to the Super Bowl. But what I am saying is that there is no other coach that could do that could beat an elite team or a team that was considered elite or a contender the way that they did, with no previous sort of planning or preparation for this to take place. Purdy was just thrust into action, and they were still scoring points, moving the ball, and making plays on offense. This wasn't just won by defense and special teams. This was still won by offense. So that's a credit to Shanahan. That's a credit to the offense. That's a credit to the skill position players around the quarterback. But I just wouldn't cross off these Niners because they have that best coach in the game. They have this guy who crafts an offense that actually, some way, shape, and form in today's NFL can limit the impact of the quarterback, but still be successful and still be explosive and impactful. So that is why I think I still give them a chance. It's not as much to do with how good their roster is or how good their defense is. It's that this is one of the only teams where if you take the quarterback away, they're still good. They can still manage it. They can still pull it off. Okay? And that being said, the defense showcased why, when healthy, they're the best defense in football. I mean, they were flying around. Fred Warner was making absolute plays. And I think Fred Warner showcased why he has to be put at the top of lists for best linebacker in the game. And it wasn't anything from a turnover perspective, any big plays or anything, but it's his range in the middle of the field to cover so much space, to cover so much ground. I mean, Fred Warner was just covering the whole middle section of the field. The money section, the big play section of the Miami offense was just absolutely blanketed by number 54, by the best linebacker in the game, Fred Warner. He was all over it. And he made Tua make precise, tough throws that Tua didn't want to make and that Tua was questioning the whole game long. He was trying to make Tua throw layered throws over top of him, over the second level of the defense. And that's what I felt the 49ers did so spectacularly on defense in this game, from the plan of DeMeco Ryans, the correct spacing of their zone coverages, the smothering of the inside, passing game, the precise little routes inside, the motion plays. The Niners' zone coverages were all over the areas of the field that Tua and this offense wanted to attack. And Fred Warner and these linebackers, Dre Greenlaw, were so impactful to that game plan. So you got to give them a ton of credit there. I felt like the Niners showed why they were an NFC favorite, why they were the Super Bowl favorites to me with Jimmy G, why they were that team that I was going to pick, I should say. Miami showcased why I've always been a little kind of like wait and see on the Miami Dolphins. I think we saw the limitations of this great Miami attack in this game. And that all comes down to Tua. I mean, it really does. Everybody's been on me this year for, what do you say about Tua? He's been lighting it up. He's the MVP of football. He's this guy. He's that. He's the GOAT. Whatever. Well, what I saw is a guy that when he's a little rattled, a little sped up, a little pressured, hit a few times, he gets a little scared. He does. I mean, the Tua time clock turned back in time in this game. He looked like the Tua of old. He was missing receivers left and right under no duress or no pressure at all because he was rattled. He wasn't making the plays when he needed to. This guy was 0 for 7. This offense was 0 for 7 on third down. That comes to quarterback play. How many missed throws were there? How many disastrous throws were there? And not only that, the Dolphins were in this game until he started to turn the ball over. The Niners made Tua look like the Tua of old. And it's because they took away the stuff that has been so amazing for them from a schematic perspective and forced the quarterback to make more difficult, high-end throws and put more on the plate of the quarterback. And they made Tua beat them, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. In this game, it showcased why I've been saying there should be no discussion for Tua in the MVP conversation. The real MVP of the Miami Dolphins is Tyreek Hill. This game showcased that. This game underlined that. Tyreek Hill is that dude. Tyreek Hill is the best receiver in the game. Tyreek Hill is the MVP of the Dolphins and the reason they will go to the playoffs this year. He changes games not just through the plays that he makes with the ball or without the ball to get open. Not just the deep crosser, deep post that he burns the defense for a long touchdown. Not just the fourth down conversion with the game on the line. But the attention he really garners from a defense. I say this every year, and it goes over everyone's head. But it's no coincidence that Tua goes from one of the worst quarterbacks in the game to all of a sudden statistically one of the best by adding Tyreek Hill to this offense along with a creative coordinator who can use that skill set. Tyreek Hill on the very first play of the game has the entire Niners defense staring at him, which is why Trent Sherfield is wide open down the seam and takes an 8-yard pass 75 yards. Tyreek Hill is that scary to a defense. Tyreek Hill takes that much attention. That's what I've said for years with the Chiefs. That made Mahomes better. That made Reid's scheme better. That made Kelsey better. We're witnessing right now an all-time wide receiver. One of the greatest receivers of all time. I don't think anybody discusses this enough. Tyreek Hill is going to go down as at least a top 10 receiver of all time. And for me personally, he might get close to top 5 of all time. He might even enter that conversation. But it's not just what he does to get open. It's not just what he does with the ball. It's not just how dangerous he is or how many passes he can catch. It's the attention. It's how you have to game plan for that one player that allows everyone else on the field to be better and for the defense to be weaker. That's what it is. That's what it is. So we learned a lot in this game. Tua is not the MVP. Tyreek Hill is. We learned the Niners have the best defense in the league. We learned that, okay, yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo's hurt, but the key to success is not Garoppolo, it's Shanahan. And this team is the team that if they lost their quarterback, if they lost their second quarterback, you put their third quarterback in there, they can still have some success. And if the Niners are going to go on to be a very dangerous team this year, they're going to do it on the back of their skill position players, their scheme, and their defense. And I believe they can do it. I do not recall an NFC playoff picture being this sad. The NFC is as bad as ever in that 4 to 7 team range in the NFC playoff picture. You look at this playoff picture, guys, it's absolutely gross. It's absolutely disgusting. I mean, now that Garoppolo is injured, I think rightfully so, we downgrade the Niners to probably not being a Super Bowl team, but still a team that can win or threaten for a couple of playoff games. And I would agree with you there. When you're looking at it, you have the two teams from the NFC East, the Eagles and the Cowboys, who are good teams, balanced teams, good offenses, good defenses. Then you have a Minnesota Vikings team who barely beats every team they beat every week. This week, they got dominated by the Jets for 2.5 quarters and still found a way to win. It was ridiculous. The Vikings are that third team for most people. We're looking at teams like the Seahawks who could barely beat John Wolford. The Seattle Seahawks? This Seattle Seahawks team who can barely stop anybody? John Wolford in a one-score game? The Commanders and the Giants who both tied, because of course they did. These two teams with those quarterbacks and those rosters are in the playoffs? I'm not sure what type of egg the Bucs are going to lay, but they seemingly lay an egg every week with probably the worst coaching staff in the league right now. It's atrocious. The Bucs have the talent to potentially make a run or be that dark horse, but they haven't put the pieces together all year long, so what makes you believe that? This NFC is terrible, atrocious, god-awful. And when you look at it, it could be an NFC East championship game. It could be. Or at the very least, it could be those two teams that are fighting for the NFC crown. At least it looks that way right now. Do you consider the Lions having a chance? I just want to give a shout out to my Lions fans out there. Congratulations on a big win. The Detroit Lions have an opportunity now to maybe squeak in the playoffs. I mean, there's an opportunity because I think the Seahawks are showing some weaknesses, some big-time weaknesses. I feel like they certainly have been exposed, certainly can lose some games down the stretch. I feel like the Giants and the Commanders are susceptible to lose to any team in the league. So the Lions have a chance. I wouldn't even rule out the Packers at this point. I feel like they have something going right now a little bit, and I do think down the stretch with Aaron Rodgers, the talent that they still have on this team, Christian Watson balling out, I think the Green Bay Packers season will probably come down to how they play against the Dolphins, because I think they're mostly going to win the rest of their games. I think it's going to come down to how they play against the Dolphins in Miami. So I wouldn't even rule them out at this point in the NFC. When we look at the AFC, the big game this week was the Cincinnati Bengals and the Kansas City Chiefs, right? And what I take away from this game is, I think we can officially stop with the Kansas City Chiefs are this great team this year. I think we can officially stop with the Chiefs being the number one team in the power rankings because they have yet to prove that they can actually beat anybody good. Think about it. Think about it. Who have the Chiefs actually beaten at full strength this year that makes you say that they're a great team? Other than the logo, other than the coach and the quarterback, other than the name Kansas City Chiefs, what makes you say that the Chiefs are as good or better than the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Bengals, the Bills? After all, they have beaten none of those teams. They have lost to two of those teams. Their primary competition in the AFC, the Bills and the Bengals, they've lost to both teams. When you look at their schedule and who they have beaten, they've beaten the Chargers a couple times. They've beaten the Cardinals. They've beaten the Bucs, who maybe at the time we thought was a nice win, but we've realized, well, they're a disaster. They beat the Niners, which was their most impressive win, but that was a Niners team that was really injured at the time, kind of reeling at the time. The Titans, they beat with Malik Willis, so they got away with that one. They barely beat the Raiders. So they have shown weakness all year. They have just been beating up on a very, very soft schedule, cupcake schedule this Chiefs team has had. And I think you have to look at this result here with Cincinnati beating the Chiefs, although it was close, and although both games have been close against the Bills and the Bengals beat the Chiefs. And I think you have to look at those results and say, there's nothing telling us that it won't be a Bengals-Bills AFC championship. That's what it's going to be for me. That's what I'm going to predict. I'm telling you guys right now, the AFC Championship game is going to be the Bengals and the Bills. They're the most complete teams in the AFC. The Bills have Josh Allen, the specimen. They have a very good defense when healthy and a pretty good coaching staff. The Cincinnati Bengals have a very game plan specific, wise, smart, intelligent defense. An offense that can run on you, can throw on you. Joe Burrow can make clutch plays. They've got a lot of great receivers. Those two teams are the teams in the AFC for me that I will believe, I will predict will go to the AFC Championship. I really do. I think those are the two teams because they're the most well-rounded. I've been telling you guys, I don't trust the Chiefs' defense. The Chiefs' defense can't get stops when they need to get stops. They can't stop premier quarterbacks. They can't stop premier passing attacks. Chris Jones has to take over every game against the best offenses in the league for them to win. They just have no chance on defense. And you look at that game, they punted once in the game, and they lost. They punted once. They fumbled once, and they missed a field goal. That's what happened. So they scored on 5 of their 8 possessions. It really can get no better than that in a realistic setting against the best teams in the league. You're going to have to punt. You're going to turn the ball over. If your defense can't answer, can't make plays, you're going to lose in the playoffs. You have to have a complete team to win in the playoffs. It's very hard to win as a one-dimensional team. And that's what I see the Chiefs as right now. I see them as a better version of the Dolphins. They got a much better quarterback. They got a great scheme. And they're experienced. The Dolphins, very much the same. They live or die on the explosiveness of their offense. The Chiefs are the same thing. The Chiefs can kind of control the game better through their offense. Andy Reid. But, I mean, there's not much separating those two in my opinion. I think there's a clear separation for me right now. Bills, Bengals, gap. Chiefs, Dolphins. Probably a gap because we saw Lamar Jackson get injured. And without Lamar Jackson, the Ravens may miss the playoffs. It may very well happen. They got to play the Bengals again. I know that. Pretty sure they got to play the Browns again. Pretty sure they got to play the Steelers, who are not going to be easy. Tyler Huntley, I like as a backup, but this offense was already hurting with Lamar Jackson in there. And you take out one of the most valuable players in the NFL for all that he does for this offense, and you're in trouble, Baltimore. You really are. You may miss the playoffs. So, what I learned from that marquee game this week is that the Chiefs have really beaten nobody. It's time to question them. The Chiefs are not as good as everybody thinks, as I've been saying. And the Cincinnati Bengals are legit. We got to talk about Cincinnati. Like, let's not just spend all this time on the Chiefs and not talk about Cincinnati. They won this game despite getting stopped on a 4th and 1 before the half. If they get that 4th and 1, they score a touchdown on that drive, that game's over right there. Or that game's well in hand. That game is easily won in the second half. Even if they just kick the field goal, it helps this game. But Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, man, I've been critical at times of him this year. Just makes big throw after big throw after big throw, money throw after money throw after money throw. Sets the tone for this team. I want to give Joe Burrow a ton of credit because his coach is not a phenomenal leader. Zach Taylor is a decent coach, a decent schemer, but he's not a great leader. Joe Burrow sets the tone for this team, sets the toughness for this team. He gets this team to where they're at. And this team is so explosive. This team can control the game through passing or running. And this team just always seems to make the right plays at the right moment. And the defense, Big Lou's doing his thing. The pass rush is great with the ways they scheme things. And I feel like they always have the right plan for their opponent. They're going to be a tough out in the playoffs. Absolutely. And they've been there. They've been to the Super Bowl. They've experienced it. So this is a maybe even more dangerous team than we saw last year in Cincinnati because they've been there. You know, that's always my thing with hockey, with the NHL, is I like to see the team experience the path before they actually win it. The Bengals are one of those type of teams where they've been through it. They are going now the second time. They realize how hard it is now that they've lost it. So I think it's interesting for the Bengals. And in terms of a team that's 7th seed in the AFC, this is what I'm going to ask you guys in the comments. Let me know your answer. Who do you guys think is going to get the 7th seed in the AFC? That's what I'm going to close on. Who do you guys think is going to get the 7th seed? We've got the Jets. We've got the Chargers, the Patriots, or the Las Vegas Raiders. I haven't heard any Josh McDaniels haters as of late. I haven't heard of them. Where have they been? Josh Jacobs on pace to break Eric Dickerson's record, by the way. Just saying. But, I mean, you look at the Raiders right now. They're 5-7. They play the Rams next week. Then they play the Patriots. Okay? They could be 6-7 after they should take care of business on Thursday. They're right back in the mix. They're right back in the mix. The Raiders are right there. And just imagine if they would have beaten the Cardinals. They would have beaten the Jags, 2 teams that they were punishing at halftime. This team would be a playoff team. So don't count the Raiders out just yet. They found out how they need to play to win. And I heard Josh McDaniels say that after that game against the Chargers. And they also figured out a formula defensively. A lot more aggressive. A lot more blitz heavy. I like it. To potentially give some quarterbacks some trouble and to get some stops. Because they haven't been getting stops all year. So that would be big. But you guys let me know. Patriots, Jets, Chargers. Jets and Chargers lost this week. Patriots lost this week. Patriots. Pats fans. We play the Cardinals. We play the Raiders. Got to win those games. But I do think that 9 wins as that 7th seed in the AFC will make it in. I do. Just going to come down to maybe some complications. Maybe some mathematical equations. But the NFL will figure it out, and we'll figure it out who will make it. But right now, I want to say, out of those teams, maybe I'm a little biased. I do think the Patriots are the best team there. I think the Jets are the most competitive week to week. But I think New England obviously swept the Jets. I think New England would beat the Chargers. We'll have to see what it comes down to with the Patriots and the Raiders. But I do think the Patriots are the best team. I also feel like they could get blown out in the playoffs, though. I feel like the Jets could play maybe closer games in the playoffs than the Patriots. The Patriots might just be the best out of those 4 teams, though. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know who you think's going to make it. I don't really know. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to this NFL reaction, NFL recap, NFL review for week number 13. Let me know what you thought of the show. Let me know your reaction to week 13. Those are my takeaways for the outlook of the NFL right now. Thanks for watching. It's Mitch. Peace.